Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber, and we have a week, Tuesday through Friday, and today is Tuesday, the first of 5 sessions that honor the global innovation and excellence of members of Global Chamber. Wow, this was a really fun and exciting and ultimately a little frustrating process, in the sense of everybody that you'll be hearing from this week is totally amazing. And I guess when I think about Global Chamber members, period, they're all extraordinary. And so these 50 plus, and we did try to keep it to 50, although I think it has actually edged over 60 because we couldn't stop. And there's even still some people, it's like, how can we, not have recognized Michael Quigley in the UK? It just doesn't make sense, or things like that. One of the great things about doing global business and being part of the global tribe is seeing how amazing and impactful and successful and inspiring the tribe is. And so I can't think of anyone more inspiring and exciting to kick us off this week of presentations than Dr. Sanjeev Khagram. He represents an organization that was a key inspiration for me to create Global Chamber. I remember well before Dr. Khagram came, Thunderbird's 75 years old. I visited the campus as a non-student in the cafeteria at the old Glendale campus. And I was just like so mesmerized by all of these young people who believe they could change the world. And, by the way, the world needs to be changed. There needs to be more and more progress every day. And that's a good thing. And these young people just approached it so passionately and with so much energy and so much inspiration, ultimately. And I thought, gee, why can't we have this more around us, all the time? Why do we have to go to Glendale, Arizona, which is not the most global place in the world? Yeah. Nonetheless, at the end of the day, Thunderbird has transformed to a next level of capability. Dr. Khagram came in about 4.5, almost 5 years or so ago, and he's been part and a key aspect of that transformation, where they first moved to downtown Phoenix in a temporary location. And now, in the last year plus, behind Dr. Khagram, you can see this new building, and the Global Chamber headquarters is in the back right corner from the visibility here. His office is at the top floor there, right next to his head. More importantly, I think, is that this building is just full of, again, these young people, another round of young people from around the world. I think it's over 70% of them are from different countries around the world. And the energy, the capability, and the future change, positive change in the world is mesmerizing, is just a total, complete inspiration. I've spent the last month pretty much with COVID. And so I've not been able to really do very much, except finally I tested negative, and my wife has tested negative. So I was able finally to go to work on Friday. And it was the best day of the year for me, because I could just hang out. I went to the pub, I had lunch. It was a great lunch. I could see the city. I could see the city transforming, and I can see Thunderbird all around me. So Dr. Khagram, you are an extraordinary leader. I thank you so much for what you're doing for not just the Thunderbird community, but for the world overall. The 100 Million Learner Initiative is another example of you taking on the next level of impact in the world. And so I'm just so happy and proud to be a collaborator with you and Thunderbird, and also just really honored that you are kicking us off today. Would love to hear from you in terms of some of the things that Thunderbird is doing, and anything else that you'd like to share to undoubtedly inspire us. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Doug. I think we all around the virtual room here and around the world, part of the Global Chamber, think you're number one. So we want to thank you for your leadership. You know, we wouldn't be together because of your tireless energy, your passion, your commitment, your global mindset, your digital mindset, everything that you bring every day. And if anyone represents global and unstoppable, that's Doug Brunke. I'm sure you all agree, right? So we're just trying to keep up with my brother Doug here. And as you said, Doug, it's been actually 5 years to the week that I started at Thunderbird. And it's also just a little over 50 years that my family was expelled from Uganda.
Wow.
So, and we're refugees for a number of years. So it's kind of a special time, an intense time, a lot of reflection. We've come a long way in the last 5 years. The world's in a pretty difficult place, as we all know. And, you know, Christopher, you were talking about how business folks and commerce and diplomacy, you know, that was what Thunderbird and is founded on. You know, that famous phrase, borders frequented by diplomacy and trade seldom need soldiers. And nothing represents that more powerfully than Global Chamber, which is, I think, why it inspired you, Doug, to found this incredible network, organization, tribe around the world. You know, I think for us, the last 5 years is amazing, but really the last year has been a kind of, again, kind of hitting the mountaintop. I think for those of you who may not know, we got a #1 ranking in international trade in QS World University rankings. #1 in the world out of 200 institutions, ahead of my alma maters, Harvard and Stanford, Cambridge, you know, INSEAD, IMD, all the rest. And that's really special for us because QS World University Rankings is the premier rankings in our business, in our global business, which is global education. But it's because it's international trade that it's really meaningful. Go back to that founding maxim, borders frequented by trade and diplomacy seldom need soldiers. So #1 in international trade really is the best we can be for who we are because we're purpose driven. As you mentioned, you know, we have these incredible students from around the world. They are passionate and committed. They're young, Global Chamber, you know, Thunderbirds, they're ready to go. And they are global and unstoppable. And I guess what I would ask is, please, if you get a chance to engage with them, as Doug does all the time, and we're so grateful to him and to most of you and all of you, you know, mentor them, bring them on as interns, take them on into your companies. I promise you, you won't regret it. They will put you on turbocharge and take you even more global and digital in the 21st century than you already are. And then I'd really end with what you spoke about, Doug. We have our incredible programs, we have our incredible faculty, we have our incredible facility, which is also behind you, the Global Digital Forum that you do so many great events in. We have our centers of excellence around the world. One of the things I committed to do was not only to make sure that we were the most global and digital leadership management business school in the world, but that we practiced what we preached. And that meant that we have expanded from 2 centers of excellence, one in Moscow, one in Geneva when I started, to now 20 centers of excellence. And by the end of this academic fiscal year, we hope to get, and calendar year, we'll probably get to 25 with new centers in Mexico City, in Istanbul, in Kazakhstan and elsewhere. So we're very excited about, you know, that global expansion. And, you know, I told alumni and partners like Global Chamber folks, we taught the world to lead and manage global enterprises. We needed to be one and act like one ourselves. And so that's what we've tried to do, to practice what we preach, all the while embracing the technologies of the 4th industrial revolution, AI and the internet and digital transformation of all kinds. And that leads us to the 100 Million Learners Initiative, the Francis and Dion Najafi 100 Million Learners Initiative. And simply put, if we want to transform the world, education and empowerment, as you all know, and that goes back to my personal story as a refugee where, you know, we didn't have very much in terms of anything, let alone education, for a number of years. My mother and I started our first little enterprise when I was 13. She hadn't graduated high school. She didn't know how to run a company necessarily, you know, do the books or anything like that. do marketing. And so the whole idea of 100 million learners is, what if we could empower 100 million people around the world with global and digital mindsets, entrepreneurship and innovation mindsets. And certainly for us at Thunderbird, that means in multiple languages. So we've built the world's first ever academic translation engine with Google, where we can translate into 133 languages. That means no cost to the learner. And that means every level, from a program for the bottom of the pyramid, no matter what your education, to those in secondary school, early undergraduate, to those in graduate school. So we're out in 20 languages already, from Spanish to Arabic, Hindi to Bahasa, and Swahili to Ukrainian soon. And we'll keep going on that front. We almost have 30,000 learners. And we hope that you'll recommend folks and bring learners in, because it's no cost. And you just go to 100millionlearners.org and click 3 times and you're in. And the way we think of it is, if we had 100 million Thunderbirds in the world, 100 million Global Chamber members in the world, then the world would be a lot better place, a lot better place. And my story and our story as a family becoming refugees wouldn't happen anymore. And what's happening in Ukraine wouldn't happen anymore. So thank you so much, Doug, for your leadership, all of the members for your leadership. Keep on being global and unstoppable. Know that we at Thunderbird are your partners for the next 76 years, 75 years to 2096 and beyond, where we think we'll become the Thunderbird Academy of Intergalactic Leadership. So,
which goes to the space program, right? With Thunderbird. On Monday, there was a conversation about the programs you're doing for space exploration. So it is intergalactic, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's our goal. And we're going to have a great Arizona Space Summit coming up. So you can, connect to that with our great partners across ASU. So anyway, thank you all so much. Please stay safe and healthy. As you know, and I'll end with this, Doug, we have, we have an oath of honor that students and faculty, staff, and partners, alumni set up over 25 years ago, that everyone pledges to as part of Thunderbird. It has 3 core principles. We oppose all forms of corruption and exploitation. We respect the rights and dignity of all people, and we advance sustainable and equitable prosperity and peace worldwide. So it's pretty special to be able to get up every morning and try to lead an institution to try to realize that incredible set of principles. So, and to work with great partners like the Global Chamber. Thank you, Doug.
Keep up the progress. Before you jump off, I'd like to introduce you to my co-moderator today, Dana Austin, who before you came on was mentioning that she's taking the 100 million learner initiative classes.
Have you made my day, Dana?
Yes.
She's been really enjoying it. She's our Global Chamber Executive Director in Atlanta. Dana, did you want to say something?
Yes, Dean Khagram. First, we want to just thank you collectively for your vision, your insight, your leadership, and taking this to intergalactic. Is certainly out of this world. Can't wait to see what's going to be forthcoming. And yes, I'm excited to be one of your 100 million learners and to get others on board. Also, having spent some time in Uganda, the country that you all were became refugees from. So I've got certainly some history there as well. We just appreciate your leadership, and we can't wait to see what's next. I'm going to take one class at a time, excel, and move on and get my team involved as well and others around the world. Thank you for your leadership once again.
Thank you, Dana. And nothing could make me happier than to hear that. So
yes. One last comment. With the sustainable goals, the UN sustainable goals, I know that Thunderbird embraces that. What would you say one focus, like just one of those goals is your focus for the university?
Well, obviously education. We are educators, so obviously quality education. But I will mention another one. We have launched a global partnership on carbon removal for a climate change goal. And so we know that as a planet, as a human species, we can't reach 350 parts per million or less, 1.5 degrees or less, without sucking up gigatons of carbon from the atmosphere. And the amazing thing is we now have natural, technological, hybrid, ocean-based solutions to really advance that. And it's a business. We can create many businesses and enterprises around this, create jobs and livelihoods. And so we just launched in my motherland, my fatherland is Uganda, in Kenya, the world's first ever national carbon removal workshop, because in fact, the greatest place to do carbon removal, engineered direct air capture in the world is Kenya, in the Great Rift Valley. People wouldn't know that. And President Ruto, who's our great partner and friend, has made it his commitment that carbon credits will be Kenya's greatest export, ahead of tea and coffee and all sorts of other things over the next 10 years. So we are again trying to practice what we preach in terms of global chamber principles, global and unstoppable, we bring the world through trade. And that can actually improve not only the global economy, but our planet in terms of addressing climate. So that's another one that's very high priority for us.
Well, you had me until you said it's going to take the lead on tea.
They'll still export a lot of tea.
Okay. Yeah, being a tea connoisseur and having studied also in Kenya and Eldoret and been passed through Rift Valley, Kenya tends to lead in the continent in terms of peace, SDGs, environmentally conscious. So we'll be interested to see what becomes of that and how we can play a role as business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs on the carbon removal footprint. Thank you.
Incredible opportunities for the planet, for prosperity, and for people with carbon removal.
Dr. Khagram, you're amazing. Thank you very much. And the next time I think we'll see you at Global Chamber will be April 25th. And that's I guess, kind of a somewhat plus minus 5-year anniversary for when you arrived in Phoenix, and someone in your office said, hey, there's an event put on by some group called the Global Chamber. And so Dr. Khagram came and visited. It was called Welcome to Phoenix, actually, somewhat ironically, the event. We didn't know about Dr. Khagram at the time, but we sure got to know him that night. Thank you for your leadership. Then spontaneously, all the Thunderbird people in this event all congregated, and you'll see it's actually still on the Global Chamber front page, homepage. There's a picture of Dr. Khagram with about 15 to 20 T-Bird graduates who just got together, and he was even then articulate about the vision for what he wanted to accomplish, and he's exceeded even more than what was such a grand vision. Thank you for everything that you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. Please stay safe and healthy, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you. Take care. So Dana, I can't say enough. I'm glad you guys were able to meet up. He's just an extraordinary leader. And that event that we're doing April 25th it's called Mega Global Connecting. And it's got the same vision to bring people who are new to the region, which in Phoenix there are many, and connect them with people who are in the area already. And Dr. Khagram is on the panel. It's being run by the Phoenix Business Journal as moderated. And then we've got some really interesting speakers on there, all members. And so, you know, we're having fun, but we're also hopefully making progress. And Dana, that was a lot of us putting this recognition together. We've done awards in the past. The Global Chamber Denver actually pioneered an event right before COVID, the year before COVID, where we did an award program. And I think we only gave away maybe 8 or 10 awards to amazing people. And this time it was just kind of hard to limit it to that number. And we thought, well, let's try to do 50. And we're still well over 50. And there's still many people that really need to be recognized. And that's why, Dana, I've been saying that everybody who's a member is extraordinary. But today we're just recognizing some, hopefully, that all of us can gain from by connecting to, learn from, and be inspired. And hopefully we can do another one of these next year and ongoing. What's your reaction to kind of what we're trying to do today, but also Dr. Khagram?
Well, my reaction, well, first I want to acknowledge Catherine's comment that she noticed that you enjoy going to work and hanging out at the pub. Well, I will say it's so much more than that, but that's a part of it. That's the social networking, right? And so my reaction to today's, talk and presentation by Dr. Khagram is that we are certainly in the right place at the right time, partner with the right organization that we have shared visions and goals and values. And like you said, the energy and the excitement when you show up at the headquarters and at Thunderbird is palpable. I'm sure many of us who have experienced it can attest to that. And there's several of us, whether we're local or global, around the world, we want to share in that too, but we feel it. So my take for today is we're in the right place at the right time with the right organization. I was ecstatic to hear that it's the Excellence Alliance initiative is now at 20. Last year, I remember them being at 15. So they're going the direction to achieve the 30 that they have. So we're more than global and unstoppable when we partner with Thunderbird.
No question. So there are some more awardees here in the room, and would love to connect up with them. And Catherine certainly would be one of them. I think, again, her being here is a great example of why we selected her, and maybe gives you a sense of kind of the bigger picture of this year's awardees, why we chose them. And in fact, I think Catherine even asked me, like, something, she was very humble, which I guess is another characteristic of kind of the people often that we want to hang out with, right? Is that, they're very easy to work with. They're humble. They're really smart and capable and professional and honest and have high integrity. And, that's just a good feeling. And so when Catherine got the email that said, "Hey, we'd like to recognize you," is like, well, wow, why? I think that was you, Catherine, right? And I think that is actually part of why she gets the award, is that she's just extraordinary. And I think the other aspect of it is, and I tried to articulate this maybe not very well, is that, Catherine has expertise in areas that not everybody has. In particular, an example of that would be entrance into China and business there. She, like many of us in global business, love to travel, love to meet people. It's palpable in terms of her passion around that. And, that's really cool. So Catherine, if you're there, would love to hear from you in terms of your thoughts around global business and anything that you'd like to share regarding things we should know about you and your involvement with your activities in global business.
Things you should know about me. I think you know a lot about me already. This is, maybe just as a very quick introduction, I'm involved in a kind of mix of consulting, mentoring, and this year I'm also trying to get a little bit more into speaking. And I do really a lot of projects under the motto of international expansion explained, because I'm really passionate about the fact that I think that where people are doing business together and where people are building business relationships together, then obviously it's very hard to go to war with those kind of people, and it's very hard to have some kind of conflict. So, or at least you have a conflict, but you resolve it in different ways. And I think that that is something that we all need to learn about, that the world isn't such a polarized place as the media often makes it out to be, and that every country has its, let's say, its dark side of things that we don't like so much about what the government are doing, or maybe about some habits that people have in that particular culture. But that in the end, the more that you know about any country and their people, the better you can understand them and the closer you can work together with them. So you don't have to always like everything that they do in order to do business together, and in order to understand that they're not all evil or heroes, because that doesn't really exist in the real world. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no question. I mean, I think all of us feel that way. How do you navigate that, given that a lot of your work is in China, right? So there's some tricky things going on there, particularly now. How do you create the firewalls, or how do you manage through that, knowing that, to your point, people are people, and people are good and people are bad, and governments are good or bad, and some of that and trade practices can be also run the gamut, right, in terms of more or less difficult at different times. How do you create your comfort zone to keep focused in on what you're trying to accomplish? And ultimately, what are you trying to accomplish?
I mean, I would say from my side, there are certain kinds of projects where it's obvious from the very beginning that if you're involved in those kind of very huge procurement projects for building, I don't know, some huge new power station or so on, that is going to be a more sensitive topic as far as things like corruption, compliance, and government relations are concerned than if you're selling consumer goods into a country. So I think that each of us has to know where you can draw your personal line, because you also have those questions that come up often about gift giving and so on. If say thank you and something that's fairly right for you, something else. I think that building a smaller number of really well-founded relationships can be a way to get around that, and to really be selective about who you're working with as far as possible, to make sure that you're not put into a situation where you feel that maybe you need to compromise your values if you want to do the deal, or you have to make a very hard decision to walk away from the business because you can't do it according to the values that you have.
I'd like to comment on that, if you don't mind, Doug.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you for that, Catherine. And one thing that those who've gotten to know you through our Globinars is that you do stand for what Doug talked about, which is integrity. And that integrity would rather you have quality over quantity. And I can relate to that. And I connect with you on that as well. So some of my research for just to ask you these questions was just perusing your LinkedIn as well. So I noticed that you had a comment a few days ago about, when you create content, I know you're giving it your all, not just you, but most people who are on this line who are creators of content. But it's not often that you get the feedback, being an entrepreneur, and you spoke to that. And it just really resonated with you and touched you and moved you. Why do you think that touched you in that way? What resonated with you about the person who gave you that feedback?
Partly because I don't see myself primarily as a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have somebody who is one of the people, a large part of his professional work is that he's writing and creating content, and to have him say that he refers to my website as a source of inspiration for creating his content was something that, having a compliment from somebody who really knows what he's talking about in a field, and not just somebody who looks at what you do from afar and thinks, oh, they must be an expert, without being able to really judge it for themselves professionally, is quite a difference. It's like the difference between if a small child says to you, oh, you're so good at doing that, and you look at it and you think that's because you're 7 years old and you don't know that.
But we'll accept it, especially from a young, open-hearted young person who speaks their truth. And it's nice when you can see your work valued, even from another subject matter expert looking at you as the same. I'm curious to know, was that person from Asia or Europe? Because I know you cover both of those regions. And then, considering culture and sharing compliments. And I know Lainey and Gloria can also speak to that too. But I'm curious to know what region of the world were they from?
A Brit who is living in Japan.
Oh. Sounds like a Global Chamber member. Yes. And one last comment I wanted to just inquire so people can get to know you better, not just by looking at your page, but getting to know you. So do you find playing music as a source of inspiration, relaxation? Because I understand you're part of an orchestra.
Yes, there are very few things that I actually love to do more than to play in an ensemble. So at various times growing up, it's been symphony orchestra, it's been big band, it's been small jazz ensembles. But right now I play in a wind orchestra, and it's one of those things that you just get into flow. So you go to a rehearsal and you have to really focus if you're playing at a high level. And so it kind of wipes all the rest of the week out of your mind, and you just calm down and get into a completely different place. It's really enjoyable.
I love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I can relate. Sometimes a cup of something hot and tasty takes me to a different world.
Of course. Good. And it usually
hot and tasty here too.
Thank you very much. We have one more awardee out of the 50 plus here in the room, and I'll get to her in a moment. Dana, I'd like to just talk briefly for a couple minutes about some of the awardees that won't be here this week. And most of the people will be tomorrow. We have 2 events, and both of those are full of awardees. And then Thursday is starting to fill up as well. And then we added a LinkedIn audio event on Friday. So there's 4 more events after today, and there's 2 keynotes on Friday already, and several other people will look like they'll be part of that. They will be part of other events. So feel free to jump into any and all of those. And if you haven't been in a LinkedIn audio event, I strongly recommend you jump in on Friday. That one, normally we just talk about trade in general, but because there are some spillover awardees onto Friday, we'll be talking about those. The 2 people that, by the way, that are starting that one are Victoria Reynoldson, who's amazing, and Mike Patterson, who is amazing. Those are 2 of the Globies that are like superstars, and definitely people you need to know within global business.
Yes.
Dana, some of the people that we've already heard from Thunderbird, so that's number 1 with a bullet. And thank you to Dr. Khagram for appearing today and sharing so much great information. Some of the companies that will not be here today, but recognizing them. One is, and I see Larry Hart here, Cow Corporation is one of those. And one of the things, if you follow Cow, it's KAO. It's a company I remember very vividly from my Japan days, because we supplied some specialty chemicals to their cosmetics. They're a multi-billion-dollar global company, and they really are global. And what's, I think, exceptional about them, other than the fact that they are really global, and is that they have such integrity. And in fact, they were named in the top corporate governance and integrity for the 17th year in a row by an organization that recognizes it. If you follow their feed, their company feed, it's really just so inspiring from a corporate standpoint. Not all multinationals are that enlightened and understand that they're more than just a series of products or just a group of people getting together, getting those products out the door. There's something bigger that you can do. And Cow Corporation, we're just really happy and proud that they're members, and also about what they do on a day-to-day basis, that they see the big picture. And Larry, I don't know if you're available to chat, but if there's anything that you'd like to add, that would be great. Are you?
Well, I appreciate that, Doug. Steve's a great guy, Steve Cagle, and we'll see him Monday at our advisory board meeting. And I have that teed up to mention and make sure everybody is aware of that. So very proud. You're exactly right. It's a heck of a corporation. They're big here in Cincinnati. And Steve's really one of the leaders of that locally. So thank you for recognizing them.
Really inspired by them. One of the things that we talk about Global Chamber is that there are, companies everywhere. There's every size known to man. Most of my career has been with big companies, but within the Global Chamber, most of the people that show up in meetings are small and medium-sized companies, but we have these larger organizations that are part of Global Chamber, like when we did the semiconductor event, which actually is behind me. Intel Corporation was one of them, and then we had many others. And in fact, being a hyperachiever, I felt really bad, but I was headed to the event and I end up doing a lot of things myself. So I was buying the water and stuff, and I was running late every traffic light I was hitting. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to have time to wash my car. So okay, that's cool. So I'm emptying the car out at the street, and one of the Globies from ASU watched my car while I'm moving the car. So that goes to the collaboration within the tribe. And then secondly, after the event, we actually moved to another location to do a garden event, which was amazing with food. And one of the speakers was the CEO of Toshiba America, Mr. Oma. And so he said, oh, by the way, I don't have a ride over. Do you mind? And I thought to myself, well, I want to help you, but my car is a little dirty. And it just rained in Arizona. I felt really bad. But it is a Subaru, so a Japanese car. So I felt pretty good, and we had a good time. I'm kind of joking. It wasn't that severe, but it was at least, for hyperachievers, those things are important. What my point on that was, companies like Toshiba America get involved with Global Chamber, less about getting clients. They don't really need that part of it. But the really enlightened multinational folks like Jason Bagley at Intel, they recognize the value of having a supply chain that's strong. They identify with what Dr. Khagram talked about, and that is that global is good, that it's good to have people who understand and do global business because they're better people. They behave better, at least, and that's a good thing. Another person that I wanted to recognize, Dana, was Margolin Sesambayev, who is actually a global icon sponsor of Global Chamber, and he's a multi-billionaire. He lost a good amount of that, and then he's regained it. And I've had a chance to sit down with him. It was supposed to be a 30-minute conversation at 4 a.m. Pacific time, because that's when he meets with people. So I had to adjust, as we Globies tend to do. Oligarch from Kazakhstan, and so he is amazing. He is so extraordinary. We ended up talking over 2 hours because he understood at a bigger level what the value of global business is. He understood, for instance, what Dr. W. Edwards Deming was, his vision around manufacturing, how in the 60s the US industry didn't listen to him. He went to Japan. Toyota production system is based on this guy's ideas. And then he came back to the US, and finally people were willing to listen because the US auto industry in particular, and even beyond that, was getting behind. And so there's several elements of that particular story I think that are important. And maybe number one is, the more of us that understand history and understand global business, hopefully we can keep pushing for more progress, more faster progress. The fact that it took Dr. Deming a decade for people not to listen to him, for him to go to Japan and for them to listen, and then for him to come back to the US and finally people to listen, decades of work. I finally got to meet him when he was 92 years old, spent a week with him actually. And, why does it take so long? At least he was able to accomplish that. However, why does it take so long? And I think all of us that recognize that so much more progress needs to be made, like Margolin Sesambayev, understand that our time is short, so we need to work cleverly and productively. And global business is a group activity. And the more we collaborate, the more we work together, the faster progress we'll make. Dana, do you disagree?
I agree 100% actually. And I can imagine that it has to be extremely rewarding to you as our CEO and founder when people see the vision and they grab it and they run with it because they can see the difference and the impact that Global Chamber can make to their businesses, their lives. And I would even say personally, because we become more than just a global business tribe. We become a family even. And Deming, I remember studying that in public health and seeing the, what he was up against and then having to take things overseas. The beautiful thing about it is that even if we find some challenges where we are locally, we realize that we have insight, a reach, and connections and sometimes a different perspective because of the global tribe. So I can only imagine that day because I remember you talking about it when Mark became a global sponsor and you were like, well, we might need to think bigger than what we're thinking. And we are. I think he's helped to expand. Would you agree that he's helped to expand what Global Chamber can do and not even limit the number, take it to a bigger level?
It's one of those things, and I think all of us in our own businesses recognize this, that there are people that really get what we do, in our business. And so to your point on the Global Chamber side, yes, people who understand and connect and are easy to work with and understand the value and invest in the value and understand that there's a trade-off. Those are exciting things. And very often, and I'm sure all of us have this experience, sometimes we feel like we're beating our head up against the wall where people aren't either understanding or feel like they should be having a fair exchange of paying you for your services, right? As a consultant, as an example. That's frustrating. And I know there's a couple of you that know positive intelligence and the concept that Shirzad Shamin talks about, and they'll be in, I think, one of the meetings tomorrow, I think the afternoon meeting, is about the rather than the push, of finding ways to do the pull, in the sense of just, doing things that don't get you into that frustrating push, like bothering people, feeling like you're bothering people to get them to understand something. And, that's certainly, something I haven't figured out yet completely. And if you figured it out, please let us know. And I think that's, to me, one of the other values of positive intelligence is the understanding that we shouldn't be doing that. That there, if you really got something of value, there's ways of articulating that and positioning that in ways that people will be attracted to rather than, you having to push. Global business, quite honestly, though, most people don't get yet. And so I just want to make faster progress. And so we're caught in that. And maybe in your businesses, it's the same way. You want to make progress. You want to get more clients. And yet it doesn't always work out as fast as you want it to. And so how the tricks of the trade, if you will, on how that gets done for your business or for Global Chamber, we're all in it together. Let's learn.
Absolutely, Doug. And you're right about the push and the pull. And I know one thing for certain is that people do business with people they know, that they trust and they like. And I remember distinctly when I received a phone call from Stephanie Austin, my sister, who's running the Austin Chamber. And she says, you need to join Global Chamber. I'm sending you a link and join tonight. I didn't even question her. And I do question things, right? Because I know that she's sound business-wise, she's savvy in that regard. And if she's a part of something, she sees a value in it. And I joined immediately. So people who you have relationships with, each of you on the line, when you want to tell them about Global Chamber or show it, do a show and tell, have them join one of the Globinars as a guest, they trust you. They trust you that you're going to show up with the integrity, with the transparency, and with the value added. And I see Andrea had a question. So can we have you unmute and share your question, Andrea?
Oh, I didn't have a question so much. I just really wanted to affirm what Doug was saying about positive intelligence. I'm really fortunate to be one of the coaches for Global Chamber for the Positive Intelligence program. And I know how easy it is because Doug, you and I share the hyperachiever, and Dana, I know you've had lots of conversations with Connie about that, about positive intelligence. But if anyone's curious about knowing more about it, I'm happy and I'm available to talk more about what that is. Because if there's ever a time when we need to have some clear, calm, you know, experience in terms of meeting challenges with a clear, calm mindset, I think now is the time. And I know that personally for myself, for sure. That's all I wanted to share.
Absolutely, Andrea. Thank you for that. And sitting in on a session for positive intelligence with you guys 2 weeks ago, and then having Connie come on our advisory board, there's, we're always looking for ways to grow and to become better. This is it, no doubt.
Dana, I just want to list out a few more awardees, and then let's go to Gloria. Hopefully, Gloria, you can say a few words. I mentioned we've had Thunderbird and Cal Corporation and Margolin Sesambayev. I wanted to mention Globalization Partners because they're not going to be able to join any of the sessions. They've just a great company led by an amazing woman, Nicole Sahin, Sahin. Definitely follow her on LinkedIn. Just an extraordinary leader, co-founder, came back now and is leading them to the next phase of growth. And they identify and value diversity and equity and inclusion. And they've really tapped into the world labor market and helping companies to be able to hire and also to pay and to protect their intellectual property anywhere in the world. So really an extraordinary EOR company. We've got a number of them as members, and we wanted to recognize at least one of them, and Globalization Partners is the one this year. I want to identify AccuMold, that does business internationally, another member of Global Chamber, and it actually is kind of a little bit of my own background on rubber molding and plastic molding. Really great work all around the world, dozens of countries. I want to identify Corpay in foreign exchange. Just an extraordinary large company, but very receptive to the market, and also, just extraordinary systems that they put in place. I want to identify Donahi Montes of Intech National, who is someone actually I've known for many, many years. And I just respect her so much in what she does and what she intends to do in the future. And we support her. And I don't think she'll be here this week, but she's definitely someone to connect up with. And then maybe not last but not least, two more. JS Media of Jasmine Sandler, I wanted to recognize as an awardee this year. That was one of the ones I inserted in there because she had some medical issues last year, and she's come back. She put some things, her business on hold, and now she's come back. And what to me she represents is many of of us who have been in business on our own, where we face challenges and then we need to come back from it. And that can feel very lonely, and that can feel really hard. And she's been able to push through that and now being successful, still not fully through it. But Jasmine Sandler is someone you should know and hopefully support. And then finally, Dana, before we go to Gloria, I wanted to recognize the Consulate General of Japan in Los Angeles, and in particular, the Consul General Kenko Sone, who is another consul general for Japan that supports global business, that has done some things above and beyond what I would have expected a particular country to do. And we certainly appreciate collaborating with them on the Global Semiconductor Summit that we do on an annual basis. And I just love the fact when people go above and beyond the call of duty, and the Consulate General in LA for Japan does that year after year, not the least of which has been through the leadership of Brian Swords, who has been at the consulate for decades and now actually is now on his own and becoming a member of Global Chamber in his new business. So Dana, any reaction to any of that, or anything you'd like to say before we talk to Gloria, and then we'll open up the floor?
Sure. Yeah, I just, I like the array a representation of the different organizations that are being honored and represented today, because it speaks to our multifaceted members. And, you know, if we can represent Forex, if we can represent, the consulate offices and the relationships built out of that, and other organizations around, you mentioned the AccuMold and so forth, then we represent members. Our membership reach and resources is expansive as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing from Gloria next, one of my favorite founders of the author series, but I'll let you introduce her.
Let's see, is she, oh, there she is. Okay, so yeah, Gloria, we've only got a couple minutes, so we're gonna kind of transition into sort of the way the next several days are gonna go, where we're gonna give like a 30 to 60 second intro, and then the speaker has 3 minutes to share more about their business and maybe what you want us to know, and then we'll wrap up the session today. And then the next several sessions are 2 of them tomorrow, Wednesday, 1 of them on Thursday, and then 1 of them on Friday. Gloria, to me, is an awardee because she is, again, goes above and beyond the call of duty. She's very she took, for instance, the book author series that was an idea to something that was really grand and glorious. So where we had a dozen or so authors, we're now approaching 100 authors, and we have a monthly program, and it allows us to have that on the front burner all the time. So Gloria, I think that's, to me, representative of the way you take things to the next level to be better, not just for yourself, but for the greater good of the global tribe and the greater good within our community, our human community. So thank you for all that you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I didn't know I was going to be speaking today. I thought it was tomorrow at 4. But anyway, to that note, as far as the author part, I think that we all need to realize that we have unique knowledge. Each and every one of us has a unique experience. And, my passion for authorship happened when I almost didn't see tomorrow, and I won't go into details about that. But when I was in a position where I almost did not see tomorrow because it was a life-threatening situation, I thought about the knowledge that I have put together, the experiences that I have had, which all of you have over the last, 30 years at that point. And I thought, it's lost. If you don't make it, if something happens, all that stuff is gone, and you work so hard at gathering it and creating it and sharing it. So why not put it into a book? And that's the books behind me came as a result of that realization that I wanted to create a legacy, and I wanted my work and my knowledge to live on because I worked so hard at it, number 1. Number 2, because I do know it has a lot of value and it can benefit so many, and each and every one of you have that. So I really push for each and every one of you to take that knowledge, take that experience, and put it into book form and share it, because it will be your legacy that will live on to the next generations. And that's why when I get an idea like the author group for Global Chamber, because I'm not trade, I'm not export, basically, Doug, I was trying to find my fit. I mean, I joined your organization in 2013 when it's an idea itself, because I was part of your AZIGG, I think it's the acronyms, some time ago. And I just believed in everything that you did. I loved your vision. I loved how you worked. I loved how you thought. When I moved from Chicago to here in 2008, you were one of my first contacts, and I was just so impressed. And I will follow you anywhere.
Well, that's not the highest compliment. That even sounds biblical.
Yeah, I will follow you anywhere.
Your people will be her people.
I'm blushing. Thank you.
Yeah, pretty much. So when I got the idea, and I have to tell everybody that Doug wasn't so big on it in the beginning, because he said, "What's the benefit to the members?" Remember, Doug, that was your question to me, and I said, "Well, I don't know. We haven't done it yet. We won't know until we do it." So then I got a team together, like Lainey, she's on here, and a few others from the book, and I thought, I'm going to gather up some support here. And Lainey, you were one of those people. And I thought, if I send him another email a year later and say, I really want to pursue this idea, and I CC all these, like Professor Angus and Lainey and Dwayne, and I CC'd all of them on it so that I get some impact, it went. It worked. I'm very persistent, by the way, very persistent.
That's part of the global tribe. Lainey, anything in there you disagree with? I'm sure Gloria has been a key aspect of getting your book out onto the table and being within the community of, people talking. I mean, you have kind of both areas, right? Global business work that you do through your book of working with Americans, and then you've got the book side of it. What would you like to say about Gloria or anything else?
I love Gloria. It's been a joy to work with her, and Dana, I think, can testify to that too, as we've gone through expanding and changing and engaging with other authors. It's really been a great program, and her vision has kept it going. Instead of just being a one-off of 10 authors, we're now in the 3rd year, headed into the 4th year with authors, publishers, advisors. It's really, we all thank you, Gloria. And congratulations. It's wonderful to see you recognized.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And what you said, several things that resonated, but I just want to piggyback on what Lainey said. We appreciate your vision. And we also have to acknowledge Doug being open and receptive. That's the type of leader he is. And how you've taken, I remember when you did the first author series, started it in the summer, I believe, and then how it just continued to evolve, pulling many global chamber authors on board, creating panels and facilitators. Just happy to be able to be a part of that village. And I want to share a quote by Dr. Maya Angelou, and she talks about, you talked about leaving a legacy and not, leaving the world with the book inside of you. And she says that one of the greatest agonies, and I have this on one of my next books coming out, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. So thank you for encouraging and creating a platform where people can share their stories. And I would be remiss if I didn't let each of you know or remind you that I help them write books. I'm a writer's coach, helping people get books done in 90 days or less. And we just finished ours last week, actually the 31st. And I'm excited to bring them on to the author series, which means I got to bring them in as to Global Chamber too. But what a better way, So, and we also host a writers conference every year in Puerto Rico in December. Hopefully, Gloria, you can come and bring your tribe with you this year. Cesar is a part of that, our vice president, and others that are in Puerto Rico and then coming from the state line. So join us. I'll put the link there. But more importantly, Gloria, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the message there for me with you, Gloria, certainly one of the messages is, even with that, with the Writers Initiative, you didn't give up. And so many things, everything in life almost, right, is something that people don't get when you're there. I'm like, you don't say something and like everything, like the waters part, right? It's almost never that easy. And so to have persistence rather than so many people that you meet, right? They have an idea, it doesn't work, and they give up. Or they get angry at other people, right? They turn it inward in some kind of convoluted, weird way. It's like, hey, if you want it done, you got to get it done. You got to work. If you really believe it and you're really capable, you'll make it happen. And so that's I think what's so inspirational about that. I would like Dana in the next couple minutes I'd like to make a closing comment. It would be great if Cesar would, and then Dana, if you could and then we'll just open up the floor. I know we're over, and so apologies for that. The rest of the week and my final comments, and then I'll turn it over either to Cesar or Dana, is that we do have 4 more programs. Most of the people signed up for tomorrow. It's going to be a very busy day in 2 programs, although I'm going to guess that there's going to be quite a few people on Thursday and Friday as well, because I still haven't heard from everybody for all of the events. So I think it's going to be really chock full of connecting with some extraordinary people and some real great takeaways. So I think you're going to really enjoy meeting up with these people. And just I wanted to thank everybody for your support and collaboration. It is cool to hang out with all of you. I remember one of the collaborating organizations, he kind of jokes, it's the Softland Partners. I'm blanking on his name, but he says something like hanging out with the cool kids. And you know, I never really thought of the Globies as cool kids. I'm not sure that's the right word. I mean, some of you are cool for sure. Maybe all of you are cool. I'm not sure that best describes you, however. I think it's more what I talked about earlier: professional, ethical, extraordinary, amazing, you know, persistent, resilient, never give up, and impactful, visionary. You know, you see something and you try to get the progress to be made in that direction, and you don't give up, and you don't blame other people for failure. You just get it done and you take it on your own. And those are the people that I like to hang out with. Quite honestly, when I talk to other chambers of commerce, they kind of just let anybody in, and I don't think I could be part of that. I like to do a little screening, quite honestly. And when I meet somebody that's kind of not that way, maybe arrogant or something like that, I just don't pursue it. The money isn't important, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to make a recommendation and a warm introduction for someone. And if there's someone I don't feel good about making a warm introduction, I don't want to make it, because that's just a heartache in the long run. One of the people that makes a lot of warm introductions is Cesar Trabanco. And Cesar, would you like to say any final comments of this first session, and then maybe introduce it to Dana, and then we'll just open the floor?
Sure, Doug. Thank you very much. And I think, not much more to say. That, you know, it's always a pleasure working with the Global Chamber members and helping, giving them hand, and, you know, even if it's introductions, building events, and, you know, they're traveling to XYZ country and they want to connect. I think that's part of the daily pleasures that I lead through the Global Chamber. And I think this type of event is something that, and I mentioned it to you before, it's something we should be doing more and more. Because it's, you know, it's not only recognizing, but it's also networking. At the end of the day, it's making sure that the members are in front of other members. So thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Dr. Khagram, for all you do and for being part of the Global Tribe. And I look forward to the next events that are happening this week. And so passing over to Dana.
Yes, I wanted to just recognize you two as one of the cool kids in the larger sense, in terms of one of the best VPs, connectors, a man of your word, and just a friend. We just thank you for that. And I think you're a friend to all, you know, not just to one. And that's a gift. So thank you, Cesar. And congratulations on your new bundle of joy. I wanted to just mention in this room, you know, Gloria leading out in the author series, but absolutely everything that we need is right here in Global Chamber. We have a publisher on, we have author series, we have a writer's coach, we have people that are builder of content. So anything you need is in your circle, but it does warrant you asking for help. Or if not asking, at least making clear what your intentions are, what your needs are, so that we can help pull that together. Cesar, Doug, and the rest of the executive team, I think they do that. We do that really well. And, you know, we hear you and we try to definitely partner. And I'm definitely on the page of, oh, money's not good money. I would rather have quality, as we were talking with Catherine earlier, over quantity. I just rather have a handful of great people than two handfuls of, trouble. And you can move forward. We can expand our businesses. We can support environmental changes, and we can reduce carbon footprints. We can increase our return on revenues. We can make a difference and leave a legacy. And you just have to show up, number one, and you also have to ask for what it is you need. But in the meantime, give. What are you able to give to the organization to make it better? And each of you are doing that. So we thank you for being here today, and we look forward to the next 4 sessions. I'll be on 2 of them. And let's keep being global and unstoppable.
Sounds like a plan. Who else would like to say anything? Lainey, did you want to make any final comments, or Gloria, or Christian, or anybody? Christopher?
Well, I think, Doug, you could share that the author series has inspired you and Cesar to write your own book.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's also beyond just the book itself. The legacy that you talked about, I think, is really important for all of us, right? But the concept of global is good, which came from the book author series, has transformed my thoughts around, for instance, education, and how important, and we all know education is important, but it transformed my thought process around education to a different level. So thank you, Gloria. Christian or Lainey or Christopher or anybody else, any final words? Catherine, thank you for joining today. Nelson, good to see you, and Santosh and Terry and William coming in from Singapore. Appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
Hey, Doug, I'll say that you guys have already started this day with recognizing some real super people who are changing the world, and that's what Global Chamber is really all about. So thank you for just facilitating this opportunity. Thunderbird is really an important part of who we are as a Global Chamber and their work, and just to know that we have that powerful agreement with the #1 global education is awesome. And then just to go even more personal, even with people like Gloria, who has been pushing and pushing and pushing, and she's a natural leader who we've all grown to love. I think also demonstrates that that this global tribe is a family, and we push each other. So just hearing her push you and Cesar and getting your story written, and then just hearing also Dana and how she's doing amazing things in Atlanta, and really just, she's well-traveled, and how her overall experiences now have come right back into Global Chamber to complement you and your travels. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. So I'm looking forward to the next days to see who else is going to be honored. This is a great, the first day.
Definitely.
Thanks, Chris. You reminded me of, I know Katie and Cesar and I met recently, and I was still kind of sick, and I was thinking about some things, and Katie said, well, why aren't we doing this? And how about this? And it was like, wow. Yeah, it's like, why don't we? Why am I so slow? It's like, what the, so it really kind of was a wake-up call. And sometimes, that's what it takes, right? For all of us, is to, like, we're not as perfect as we would like to be. And so sometimes it takes a while for things to happen. You can ask my wife, by the way, she definitely can second that for me, but probably for all of us, either we jump into things too quickly, or we take too long to jump in. Dana, something you said I thought was really quite very much right on point, where the trusted community is so critically important. And when you or any of the tribes say something, it really means something. It has credibility versus what you would just from a random person or on the news, certainly, or whatever. And so thank you for being so trusted and being there. Any other comments? Oh, Gifty's here. Look at that.
I see Gifty's joined us.
Great. Yeah, we're just wrapping up, Gifty. You're on, and actually, some of us are here. I wasn't sure how to handle our own internal team. And in fact, we were thinking about they would be part of this community. And at some point, probably at maybe each one of the events, we'll mention some of the really exceptional executive directors and board chairs. We've got one of those here, Lainey, or she was here earlier. I can't really tell right now if she's still here or not. Where is she? No, she's not. So she had another meeting. But Katie Keith, Susan Asadi, Mijong Hibbets, I know she was here earlier. Shankar Damodaran, Rigo Duran, Dana Austin, Connie Kadansky, who is like, what an amazing person. I love Connie. She's our board chair for Global Chamber Phoenix. Lainey Denslow, very similar type of person in terms of just amazing to work with. Dr. Yun in Korea, and Colin Christie, who is an old friend and is our Global Chamber Manila person, and was able to reconnect with him through a new member that just joined over the last week. And it reminded me how amazing he is. He's just really an extraordinary person. And Nasri Mood in Singapore is somebody who's off the charts in terms of artificial intelligence. And Monica Prajazavka, who I need to figure out how to pronounce her name, but watching her and remembering how she came on board with Christopher, and I wasn't sure, and I don't know, I'm sure he felt really confident, kind of at an unexpected timing, and she's been just extraordinary and just a great leader. Chris Herring is another one. Christian Aguirre, Daniel Zaretsky in Uzbekistan, and then Naji Mubarak, and then finally Gifty. Those were the folks that I had listed out as, I tried to stick it to 10, and then it just kind of went, a little bit crazy, sort of like the 50 to 60 plus. And so all of you are just really extraordinary. Gifty, sorry that you were missed the early part. Is there anything that are you still here? Is there anything that you would like to share? Did we mess up the time zone for Accra? Maybe we did. Oh, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Did we have the wrong time for Accra?
Well, I think yes. I think no. I mean, I missed the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to double check. I'll double check as soon as we're done here on the times, because the time zone changed a week or two ago, and we're
That's
still
right.
first.
That's right.
So, well, thank you for joining. Please feel free, all of you, to join the next one of the 4 more meetings, 2 tomorrow, 1 on Thursday, and 1 on Friday. Thanks, everybody. Dana, you are amazing. Thank you so much. We did so much planning for this, didn't we, together? And
so much hours.
the reason why I chose you is, first of all, you are extraordinary. And then secondly, I knew that if we probably wouldn't have a lot of time for planning, but it would be just easy. So thank you for being so easy to work with.
Thank you, Doug. It was my pleasure. I follow your lead. I can follow easy.
You're perfect.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.